The intersection of power, corruption, and moral compromise has long been a focus in literature and philosophy. From ancient monarchies to contemporary political systems, the struggle between ethics and power dynamics illustrates enduring challenges in governance and human behavior. This review synthesizes research on the theme of power and corruption, emphasizing how literature and political theory reflect these concepts across historical and contemporary contexts. Pleasant day to everyone. This is Rasha Amira Khalil together with my fellow resource speaker, Ms. Princess Diane Mercado, to discuss a topic that has shaped civilizations, influenced leadership, and inspired literature for millennia: power and corruption. This relationship is a cornerstone of societal development and human behavior, profoundly explored across literature and political history. Why does power corrupt? Can leaders maintain integrity amidst authority? These questions resonate in today's political climate as much as they did in ancient times. As we journey through key themes in literature, from Sophocles' tragic monarchs to Orwell's dystopian rulers, we'll uncover how these narratives reflect and critique the exercise of power and its moral implications. Let's begin with the ancients. In Sophocles' Oedipus Rex, we see Oedipus' desire for truth and control leads to his tragic downfall. Despite noble intentions, his authority blinds him to personal and political realities. This classic tragedy warns us about hubris, the dangerous pride that often accompanies power. The Bible offers similar lessons. King David, a revered figure, succumbs to moral failings when he desires Bathsheba. King Solomon, despite his wisdom, falls into excess and idolatry. Both stories illustrate how even the most virtuous leaders can be corrupted by unchecked authority. This ancient text laid the foundation for examining power's corrupting influence, a theme that continues to evolve in literature and history. The struggle with power and corruption is not a modern phenomenon. Sophocles' Oedipus Rex provides an early poignant example. An Oedipus' quest for control and truth leads to his tragic downfall, illustrating how hubris and a thirst for authority can blind leaders to their flaws. Biblical narratives echo similar warnings. King David's moral failings, particularly the story of Bathsheba, demonstrate how power can erode virtue. King Solomon's descent into excess despite his wisdom underscores the vulnerability of even the most enlightened leaders. As Bushan and Hill 24 in 2014 suggest, ancient societies like Greece and Rome recognized corruption's dangers and sought to mitigate them through public accountability and democratic structures. However, as Arena 2017 demonstrates in his work on the late Roman Republic, corruption persisted, necessitating innovative approaches to address it. Arena highlights the Romans' reliance on public accountability measures like tribunes and public prosecutions. Ancient civilizations, particularly those of Greece and Rome, were acutely aware of the dangers posed by corruption. So these societies recognized that unchecked power could erode ethical governance, destabilize states, and undermine public trust. Their writings and political practices reflect a sophisticated understanding of corruption as not merely a moral failing, but a systematic threat to societal integrity. So the Romans implemented various mechanisms to hold public officials accountable. This included regular audits, public trials, and the requirement for officials to present detailed records of their actions. Such transparency aimed to deter misconduct by ensuring that leaders knew their actions would be scrutinized. Tribunes played a crucial role in protecting the interest of the common people against abuses by the elite. So these elected officials had the authority to veto laws and decisions they deemed harmful. Additionally, public prosecutions allowed citizens to bring corrupt officials to trial, creating a legal framework where power was not absolute but subject to oversight by the government. Despite these efforts, corruption remained a persistent challenge, and political figures Despite these efforts, corruption remained a persistent challenge. Moving to the Renaissance, Shakespeare offers profound insights into power's corrupting influence. In Macbeth, ambition transforms a loyal subject into a tyrant, and his moral decline is accelerated by unchecked power and external manipulation. This reflects Philly's in 2012 assertion that moral pluralism complicates the integration of ethics in governance. King Lear presents a different dynamic. Lear's decision to divide his kingdom based on flattery rather than merit reveals how power can distort judgment, ultimately leading to familial and national chaos. Shakespeare warns that leaders detached from ethical considerations risk losing not just their power, but their humanity. The colonial era introduces systematic dimensions of corruption. In Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, Kurt's descent into depravity symbolizes the moral bankruptcy of European imperialism. Hassan in 2021 highlight this as a metaphor for unchecked authorities' corrupting effects. Post-colonial literature critiques these dynamics further, revealing how colonial powers impose structures of exploitation, undermining indigenous cultures and ethics. Post-colonial literature further critiques this dynamic. It reveals how colonial powers impose authority, erasing cultures and exploiting resources. Here, corruption isn't just personal, but systemic, a reflection of how entire societies can suffer under the weight of imperial power. Margaret's 2012 concept of rotten compromises and May's 2017 emphasis on racial equality explore the ethical boundaries of compromise in politics. Margaret warns against agreements that perpetuate systemic injustice, while May asserts that racial equality is a non-negotiable democratic value. These perspectives align with Schwartzberg's 2022 findings that power asymmetries often distort compromises, undermining democratic principles. Gottman and Thompson in 2014 highlight the importance of fostering a spirit of compromise in democratic governance. However, they caution that campaigning dynamics often clash with this necessity, leading to polarization and legislative gridlock. Similarly, Van Parige in 2012 outlines criteria for ethical compromises, emphasizing fairness and democratic legitimacy as guiding principles. So these themes are not confined to fiction. Modern politics offers numerous examples of leaders corrupted by power. Scandals remind us that unchecked authority remains a dangerous force, and the role of the media is very crucial in here. It can expose corruption, but it also susceptible to manipulation. And understanding these dynamics helps us critically assess today's leaders and the structures that hold them accountable. So, the notion of dirty hands in political ethics underscores the moral ambiguities leaders face. Tillery's in 2015 addresses the tension between political expediency and moral integrity, arguing that compromises are often necessary but can result in perceived betrayals of core values. Margalit in 2012 differentiates between acceptable and rotten compromises, emphasizing that some agreements, such as those perpetuating injustice, are inherently unethical. Orwell's 1984 serves as a cautionary tale about the abuse of power, illustrating how surveillance and propaganda can suppress individual autonomy. Pankowski in 2018 connects Orwell's themes to modern political contexts, emphasizing their relevance in addressing contemporary issues of surveillance and misinformation. While history provides insights into the forms and functions of corruption, psychology sheds light on its internal workings. De Selles at 2012 examined the psychological effects of power, revealing how ethical sensitivity diminishes as power increases. So, this phenomenon helps explain the moral decline often observed in leaders who succumb to the allure of power. Miss Princess?
In the 20th century, literature continues to critic. George Orwell's in 1984 portrays a dystopian regime where power suppresses individuality and also morality. The figure of Big Brother symbolizes totalitarian control, reflecting modern anxieties about surveillance and propaganda. As Pankowski in 2018 suggests, Orwell's themes remain relevant in addressing contemporary political issues. In contrast, Robert Penn Warren's All the King's Men explores the internal struggles of a politician corrupted by ambition, emphasizing how personal integrity erodes in the pursuit of power. Both novels illustrate the moral complexities leaders face in the societal consequences of their decisions. These themes are not confined to fiction. Modern politics offer numerous examples of leaders corrupted by power. Scandals remind us that unchecked authority remains a dangerous force. The role of the media is crucial here as well. It can expose corruption but also susceptible to manipulation. Understanding these dynamics help us critically assess today's leaders and the structure that hold them accountable. Modern corruption theories expand on historical and also ethical analysis. Rothstein and Varich in 2017 argue that corruption arises from systematic power imbalances and institutional weaknesses. Their cross-national analysis demonstrates how robust institutions can mitigate moral compromise in politics. Teach Out in 2014 focused on the U.S. tracing corruption from its founding to the Citizens United ruling, which entrenched corporate influence in elections. Both studies call for institutional reforms to strengthen accountability and reduce systematic corruption. While Cousins in 2020 provides an Afrocentric critic emphasizing the role of cultural ethics in addressing corruption in sub-Saharan Africa. Drawing on Ubuntu, Cousins highlights the limitations of Western anti-corruption models and advocates for culturally resonant strategies to combat political patronage and inequality. The fight against corruption extends beyond the ancient world. Claire Taylor in 2017, in her contribution to anti-corruption in history, focused on the specific challenges and strategies employed in democratic systems. Athenian democracy, for instance, incorporated anti-corruption measures through institutional checks and balances, such as sortitions or lottery-based selection of officials and citizen participation through juries and assemblies. These examples emphasize the potential for public engagement and robust institutions to uphold integrity and governance. Psychological studies show that power can reduce empathy and impair ethical decision making. It fosters a sense of moral invincibility, a phenomenon literature often captures as hubris. For Oedipus to modern politicians, we see how excessive pride leads to moral blindness and ultimately downfall. Psychological studies support these literary insights. DeSales et al. In 2012 found that power can reduce empathy and impair ethical decision making. This moral blindness, often termed hubris, is a recurring theme in literature, from Oedipus to modern political leaders. The notion of dirty hands in political ethics underscores the moral ambiguities leaders face. Theories in 2015 addressed the tension between political expediency and moral integrity, arguing the compromises are often necessary but can result in perceived betrayals of core values. Marguerite in 2012 differentiates between acceptable and rotten compromises, emphasizing that some agreements, such as perpetuating injustices, are inherently unethical. While history provides insights into the form and functions of corruption, psychology sheds light on its internal workings. Leselas et al. In 2012 examines the psychological effects of power, revealing how ethical sensitivity diminishes as power increases. This phenomenon helps explain the moral decline often observed in leaders who succumb to the failure of power. Not all power narratives end in corruption. Literature also offers examples of resistance and redemption. To Kill a Mockingbird's Otis Finch represents integrity amid societal pressure. Such characters remind us that ethical leadership is possible even in moral complex environments. Real life figures, too, seeks redemption after recognizing their moral feelings. These stories remind us that resistance is possible and essential. They challenge us to choose integrity even when power attempts to compromise. In summary, the relationship between power and corruption is a recurring theme in literature, reflecting real world struggles. From ancient tragedies to modern political narratives, these stories reveal the ethical challenges leaders face and the societal consequences of their choices. Our exploration today highlights key insights. First, power tests character. Unchecked authority often exposes moral vulnerabilities. Second, history offers lessons. Ancient and modern societies alike have grappled with corruption, developing mechanisms for accountability. Next, we have literature provides warnings and hope. It critiques the misuse of power while illustrating the possibility of redemption and ethical leadership. As we reflect on today's leaders and our own roles in society, let's remember these lessons. How can we foster integrity and accountability in our communities? Understanding the past and engaging critically with literature can guide us in navigating these timeless challenges. So, this is our lecture. Thank you so much and God bless.